mom was at Benincasa. She was with us for 66 days, and she died on November 29th, 2015. Mark?
Thank you.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say, while I'm used to speaking in front of crowds, it's never on such an emotional issue, so pardon me if I need to pause occasionally. My name is Mark Gillespie, and I'm here because I asked Lori if I could share with you all what Benincasa meant to my family in 2015 when my mother spent her last days on earth. I'll keep it short, 6 or 7 minutes, and hope I hold it together. Before I tell you my story, let me tell you a little bit about how this wonderful thing called hospice care was invented, came about. It was started by a British doctor named Cicely Saunders in 1967 in London, and his place was called St. Christopher's. Cicely was an advocate for pain management for the dying, and at the time, believe it or not, doctors did not commonly give pain-killing drugs to terminally ill patients for an uninformed and totally stupid reason that they would get addicted. Okay? All right. Yeah, that's tough when you're addicted for the last 3 months of your life, right? Hospice care in the United States started in Connecticut in 1974, and it expanded quickly in the 80s when Medicare was accepted. It became accepted by Medicare, and it's not really a place, okay? Even though Benincasa is a place, hospice is not a place. It's a care meant for, you know, a home type of environment as contrasted to the palliative care and such that are in hospitals and other institutions, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's all good. Everybody's trying to help people get along. That's the beauty of Benincasa. It was founded by Gary and Beverly Clark, had its first patient in 1996, and since then, 417, as Lori has said, including my mother. There's a house in Mendon with 2 really nice rooms, separated, tastefully and comfortably decorated, set up to accept all the patient items that you want to bring in to make your family member feel comfortable. There's a fully equipped kitchen, there's rooms upstairs, there's a library. You know, they even have a little amusement ride going up and down the stairs. I kept falling off of it, but anyhow. Benincasa also has a very small paid staff headed by Lori LaSalle, who works tirelessly and somehow manages to keep a cadre of roughly 100 or so selfless volunteers available to help in this wonderful undertaking and help fundraising to keep the Benincasa going. That's why we're here tonight. While the list of official responsibilities of a hospice is large, it boils down to mostly volunteer teams working tirelessly in several-hour shifts around the clock, weekends and holidays, to make the patient's last days on earth as peaceful and pain-free as possible. That's it. Everything else just needs, you know, the legal aspects or whatever, but that's what it amounts to for me and all the people of the 16 other people that have been through there. So anyhow, now I've given you a little history. I'm going to tell you exactly what Benincasa means to me and my family members. Many of you in this room have had loved ones die, some suddenly and unexpectedly, and some over an extended period of time, usually miserably and often painfully. I've experienced both with my parents, and I'm here to discuss the latter primarily, but let me tell you a little bit about my dad first. While my father died suddenly at age 65 on Labor Day 1995 of an abdominal aortic aneurysm down in Kentucky while he was mowing the lawn, my extremely healthy mother was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer, like Mr. Reynolds before me. And in late August 2015, at age 87, and given only months to live. My father's death was one of shocked disbelief. He's a big, strong, healthy guy, but we handled it pretty quickly in terms of final affairs, funerals, and so on. And most importantly, and I never knew this, he never got to say goodbye or anything else, nor did we get to make sure he knew we loved him. Well, my mother's diagnosis of 3 to 6 months to live, depending on whether she took chemotherapy or not, which she refused wisely with our counsel, was a totally different situation. So now what? As we gathered at her bedside in the ICU at Strong, there was fear, uncertainty, helplessness, and hopelessness. I've been a financial advisor since 1981 and made sure my mother had a long-term care insurance policy. But you know what? That didn't apply here. She wasn't going to be around long enough for the waiting period. Okay? Who could we turn to? Well, luckily, an angel named Barbara Porter, a registered nurse. At the time, she was a hospice nurse, and she worked for Visiting Nursing Services. Now she works for Strong. She's a good friend of mine and a client. She got us into Benincasa, which just happened to have one of their 2 beds available. So we moved my mother to Benincasa in September, where she spent her days until she died 11/29/15 at 9 p.m. It's what happened during that time that I really want to relate to you. So, you move into a new place, college dorm, new house, apartment, you bring in your stuff. Well, it wasn't our stuff, but we settled into Benincasa, bringing items we felt would give my mother comfort, like pictures, comfy quilts, stuffed animals that my daughters brought. And most importantly, that it turns out, a small retro entertainment system that played 33s, 45s, CDs, cassettes, and a radio. The improvement in my mother's appearance, eating habits, and overall attitude after she was transferred to Benincasa was remarkable for the first few weeks. I really thought I made a mistake bringing her there. I agonized over it. Did we act too soon? Did we not give her a chance? Well, I was wrong. Okay? Turns out I'd made the right decision, but it was amazing her change in attitude. I visited almost daily, and my brother Brad and sister Darlene and daughters Adrian and Danielle were also frequent visitors, and we tried to time our visits to not coincide with each other so that Mom would have an almost constant stream of visitors to supplement the wonderful care that she got, from the Benincasa people. Speaking of keeping spirits up, I want to direct your attention to this wonderful woman over here, Diane Valdonis. She's my girlfriend. I don't know why she puts up with me, but here she is. Diane was one of my mother's favorite people, and if you knew her, you'd know why. She would accompany me on visits most of the time when she could, and when we were there, I would play Dean Martin's Houston, and Dino's 100 today. I hope you guys, it's all right with the band that I talk about Dino instead of Frank, but we would play Dean Martin's Houston, and I would try to sing along. But Diane was the only one, including my brother, my sister, me, anybody, that could get my mother to sing along, snap her fingers, shake her hands. Diane, I have it in video on the phone that she's taping me with right now, and I'll never, ever forget Diane for that. So, as a testament to Benincasa volunteers, they didn't throw me out for disturbing the peace with my singing. So that was pretty good. Anyhow, a good measuring stick of my mother's decline was her gradual loss of interest in the 6 shrimp cocktail I would bring her 2 or 3 times a week from Wegmans. At first, she devoured them in no time at all. And towards the end, she'd only eat a few. And finally, she would only take liquids through a dropper. And I'll spare you the rest. As I close this story, I think my mother's time at Benincasa were some of the happiest times of her later life. For the previous 12 years when I moved her up here, after my stepdad died from Pennsylvania, she lived independently in a 1-bedroom apartment, and I visited her almost daily, and Diane and I had her over several times a week for dinner. But it paled in comparison to the constant love and attention she got at Benincasa from all the wonderful volunteers and professionals. She suffered little pain due to the nature of her brain tumors. They really don't hurt that much. I gave her, she got 1 shot of morphine, I think, when I was there, whatever. And she gradually lost her cognitive functions, but it was mostly a happy time for my mother. During her months there, we reminisced. There's a new thing going around in the hospice care about reminiscing, and there's a whole bunch of different things about that. We reminisced, we remembered, we laughed, we cried, and we got to say a proper goodbye, which I missed with my father. She outlived 7 or 8 occupants of the other room, and then at 9 o'clock on 11/29 quietly passed away. So, I just want to tell you that I can never thank enough or repay the special people who make Benincasa the wonderful place it was from the terminally ill and their families. Thank you.